I think being an entrepreneur is the hardest thing in the world. It's very easy to quit. But if you just stay in the game and you're just persistent, like, the Thomas Edison quote, like with failing 999 times and hitting at the 1,000th time, if you just stay in it long enough, you're bound to find an answer. And they told me, you have a really good idea, but it appears as if you might just be ahead of your time. You're just like ahead of where society is as far as this intersection with health and technology. And that's where I find myself today on July 15th at 2025, where I now can say I know what I'm doing and have clarity. And with clarity comes direction.
Welcome to the Founders Clinic, where we talk to founders and the C-level using innovation to build a better future. Stay tuned for inspiring stories, real challenges, smart wins, and practical insights. We hope this clinic helps you grow, heal, and thrive on your own journey. Welcome everyone to your favorite clinic, the Founders Clinic. Today, I have a really special guest, Antone Wilson, who is the founder and CEO of HyperSpeed, a company that is revolutionizing performance for athletes and everyday adults. Anton, it's great to have you in the podcast today.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be on here. I love any opportunity to speak with like-minded people, really talk about technology as a whole, as I feel as though we're in the midst of an industrial revolution, and really just having a conversation about, some of the things that I've worked on and tell a little bit of my story. So always appreciate the opportunity to get on here and, chat. And it's been a pleasure meeting you and us speaking off air. So I'm really excited for this podcast today.
That's amazing. And just to give a bit of a spoiler alert, I know you're a bit of your story and it's very inspirational. So let's start with you. Tell us a bit about your background and how HyperSpeed came to be.
Yeah, I would say, summing up HyperSpeed in the most simple terms, it's the intersection of fitness and healthcare. And I find that health is across a very broad spectrum. And for me, it began with sports performance. At about the age of 12, I had a personal trainer, a performance coach. And it was the desire to get better. And I didn't really like doing the whole school thing when I was a kid. But if you were going to give me the science behind how I would improve my linear speed, I was all ears. Fast forward into my evolution as an athlete, I suffered a couple of ACL injuries, and that was the foundation for me to develop professionally, but also to develop character. And really through trials and tribulations as an athlete, really set the stage for not only persevering, but being willing to take on challenges. But from a professional standpoint, I would say that the development of HyperSpeed was a rather organic process. I did go to graduate school and I got an MBA. And the funny thing is, it wasn't like I went to get an MBA because I wanted to get a really good job. I actually wanted to just learn the nuances of business and the foundation of leadership. That's what I was trying to extract. And it's always funny because I say I learned about how to run a company from being a football coach. Managing personalities, the logistics, the strategy, the on-field coaching. Being a business owner, there's very much a coaching component to it. But really fast forward from there, it was like this evolution from football to private sector wellness, where I was running an aging and longevity center. That was really like what they were at the forefront of doing. And they were utilizing data on a small scale, just using the in-body, but they were using the metrics from the in-body with comparative analysis from before and after and age ranges, and then using a couple key metrics like visceral fat as an indicator for being at risk of heart disease or cancer. And that's when I realized that that device was one of the first pillars of understanding health holistically. So that's what planted the seed. Then it was on a personal journey as I started getting into training more recreationally and running and looking at heart rate data on the wearable. So it was always like I was subject number one. And I started connecting that advanced body composition data with the wearable data being like biometrics and performance numbers. And then I wanted to see, well, how many different technologies can I connect together to tell me a story? During the pandemic, I found myself working with a software out of Norway called Able Technologies, or they're Able Health now. Very close friends with the founder. And they were really trying to get off the ground rolling. They wanted to have a presence in America. And so I was the VP of the American market. So I had a full team. We were trying to sell the software to gym owners, coaches. It had a lot of utility, but we were trying to find that primary demographic, a problem that has plagued me with HyperSpeed for quite a bit. But it was really through speaking to all of these different subsectors of the health and fitness industry, where when I broke away from them, they had to cut off the whole American market, unfortunately. But it was a blessing in disguise, because it was like I've learned so much on their watch that now I'm able to take everything that I've learned and build a company. Took two of the interns that were working for me to then start that company. And then it was just this really, usually you build a product in the identity of the avatar that you want to serve. And I just knew that I wanted to connect different data points to tell a story. And it was through about a 4-year journey of going through all these different markets, but then also resuming my own professional development, because I had to step out of the labor force to begin that entrepreneurial journey. But to step back in and dabble within the realm of academia, politics, and then government sector as a subcontractor for the U.S. Army. And it was after I gathered that experience, having been a founder initially, to where I was able to connect the dots and say, this is where I want to take the company. So I would really just say it's this organic process. I think no two entrepreneurs' journeys are the same, but I think that, and also I do want to point out that, going through it, I think being an entrepreneur is the hardest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to quit. But if you just stay in the game and you're just persistent, like, the Thomas Edison quote, like with failing 999 times and hitting at the 1,000th time, if you just stay in it long enough, you're bound to find an answer. And that's where I find myself today on July 15th at 2025, where I now can say I know what I'm doing and have clarity. And with clarity comes direction.
I love many things of what you just said. One of them, the comparison that you make between running a company and sports. And I think there are a lot of similarities, right? Because when you are take running, for example, when you are running, it takes a lot of effort to be able to get some gains, and it happens the same in the companies. And then you get an injury and then everything stops. And with the companies, it happens exactly the same. There are injuries that set you back, but something that I like is your mentality about, if you take every injury or every step back or challenge within the company, more with a mindset of learning and opportunity rather than with a failure or something that is stopping me, then you either win or you learn. There is no losing. And so that's something that I really like about what you mentioned and the journey that you were describing to all of us. Let our audience understand a bit more about HyperSpeed. Who do you serve and how do you serve them?
I would say right now we serve working professionals that would rather be like, we would like to say, think about the demographic of like an Equinox or a Lifetime Fitness, but more on the concierge healthcare level. What I mean by that is that I am partnered with the studio called Uncover Human Performance and Recovery here in the Tampa Bay area. And that is what gave me vision, was this partnership in which the founder, gentleman by the name of Tre'Davious Fletcher, reached out to me and just loved everything that I was doing. I was working with more of a sports market at the time, working with high school and collegiate athletes. However, it was understanding where healthcare is going, like with RFK being the Secretary of Health and Human Services and wanting every American to have a wearable within the next 4 years. And so how can we bridge the gap between utilizing wearables and different health data to service the healthcare system? Mm-hmm. So in the most simple terms, right, when you go to a gym, you take like a preliminary intake form, just sharing a little bit about your health background and what your goals are. Some gyms have different technologies, and I'd say about 70% of the public have wearables. Well, we took some technologies that are in the facility, like we have Kinotech, which is a company based out of Portland, Maine. They're a motion sensor movement analyzer, and it has a library of about 60 exercises that can really get into the nitty gritty of your biomechanics, your risk of injury, and understand your quality of movement. So that's one of our pillars in quantifying the physical aspects of health. We run blood pressure tests. We run the Fit 3D, getting a deep dive into posture, and then we in body shape, and then we get into the in-body, which is really just body composition. We marry all those data sources together, and we also have comparative analysis. So it's really a data company foundationally that has partnered with a gym where the gym is using these operating procedures and how we collect this data to really transform the customer experience. And what the customer experience now goes through is like, when they come in, if they want to get engulfed in the technology, they will go through all these preliminary screenings. And then that will be the foundation. We don't like to call it artificial intelligence. We call it adaptive intelligence, because we are through self-assessments and historical records, whether it be medical based, which we have the ability to gather some of that as well. But with daily inputs from like the wearable, their sleep, how they're recovering, all of that is telling a story. So like we have a recovery score, we have a readiness score, The readiness score is corresponding with the hours that you worked, how active you are with physical activity collected from your wearable, and then how you slept and recovered to give you an indicator with the battery of your readiness for that day and the tasks that you're going to have to execute. The core element, and I took this from sport, it was just difficult finding a market, especially as we wanted to get off the ground running, is that I have built, and we're looking to verify it more, but each industry, we have about 15 industries based on ergonomics, how physically or cognitively demanding it is on the body. So now when an individual comes into our gym and they say, well, I work in manufacturing, we have a baseline of understanding what's going to be asked of them to understand relative to their age and gender, which is all on the back end and the working elements of the database, to understand how we're going to guide them on their journey relative to their goal, which defines their pathway. And that's when the data starts working. So it's really what I would just call hyper-personalized digital health and performance. And then we utilize that as the basis. Like we have some members that come in where we also do have a cold plunge. We have red light therapy. We have a sauna, massage therapist. We have a stretch lab. Some people will just come in, they'll do their checkups, they'll do recovery stuff, and then they can follow their program digitally. But after 30 days, they're going to go through another examination. And now we have 30 days worth of data for comparative analysis. And so we want everything that drives our processes to be supported by objective data so that we can provide the best solutions and allow the coaches to coach.
Wow. That's incredible. It's an all-in-one hyper-personalized solution that really takes the data to optimize performance at the end of the day. And especially in an era like today, the digital era and the middle of the revolution that we are living right now, everything that has to come with using data to optimize an output is just winning. Looking back, I know that every journey has a couple of pivotal moments, right? What would you say that it's one decision or one move that you took and made a big difference in the success so far?
Man, there's been a lot of them. I may peel back, but I will say I had one moment where I was working at MIT down in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was a physical education instructor, and I was fortunate enough to just have access to resources to go to the Engine, which is a world-renowned incubator where the one in Cambridge had a lot of biotech companies. But we did fit the description, and so I was able to sit down with some of their advisors. And I sat down with them for about 3 weeks and told them everything that I did. And we were trying to find product market fit because some of the advisors and the consultants that they had really liked what I was doing. And they were like, you know, you may have a difficult time going in the high school and collegiate sports route as far as breaking in and getting contracts to really generate revenue. It's going to take some time. If you go within the adult fitness realm, there are going to be some barriers. It's hard to really, and I wasn't working with the gym at the time. Mm-hmm. And they told me, you have a really good idea, but it appears as if you might just be ahead of your time. You're just like ahead of where society is as far as this intersection with health and technology. Now, that was a pivotal moment for me because it was like, well, at least I know I'm thinking right. And I have some of the smartest people in the world tell me I'm doing, the right stuff, and they support me, but they don't have an answer. Now, that was pivotal because it was right around that time where I took the contract with the Army, where I learned about all of their in-processing with new soldiers coming in and all of their health screenings, where it was that insight to learn, okay, this is where the military wants to go. We're seeing the military was doing the exact same thing I was doing, but allowing me to take a step back and say, you know what, now may not be my time. I need to continue to learn more, and that's okay. And so I never wanted to raise a bunch of money or bite off more than I can chew. Like, I've taken some financial risks, like self-funding or taking from a project about $15,000 and investing it in technologies that really served me no purpose outside of research that ended up just blowing the money. So those were pivotal moments. But it wasn't until I was able to take a step back and accept the fact that I do know what I'm doing, but timing is everything. And that's a critical component as to why I believe a lot of entrepreneurs succeed, is just timing. And so just accepting my current predicament and just trusting the process. And I think that being a lot more level-headed and not tying my self-worth into the success of my company allowed me to want to do it right, as opposed to doing it and, trying to generate a profit from it or like hit big and get a bunch of notoriety. None of those things mattered. I took away from that. Okay, if I'm up to something big, I also don't need to try and get it off the ground. Think more from the lens of, in a best case scenario, what is the most granular problem? Dare to dream big and try to solve that problem. And if you do that, everything else will take care of itself.
No, that's amazing. You know what? Listening you talk, you reminded me of something that Steve Jobs was very vocal about, and it's, these different notes in your life and pivotal moments, and that sometimes they just come together to form something magical. And as I was listening to you, that's what reminded me a little bit, all those pivotal moments that you were talking right now and at the beginning, and how it's now everything coming together to create magic, because I believe that's at the end of the day what you are building. And looking now into the present, what's something recent that either you or the team are really proud about, whether it's been a recent win, a big milestone, a strength that feels uniquely yours? What would you highlight there?
I would say that through my relationship with the gym that I've partnered with, we hit a bottleneck about 2 months ago where we didn't know all the data points that we wanted to collect, and we weren't really confident in some of the technologies that we were utilizing. And while we do have the back end logic to formulate our reports, we didn't have the business model in sync, to which generating one report was really labor intensive. And I was also still splitting time between, do I want to find the athlete market, because that's what I am most passionate about. I just don't think that presents a more scalable impact immediately. And it was recognizing that bottleneck and just having ongoing conversations. Really, he's like a co-founder with me now as we're restructuring everything. But it was being patient and taking the time to take foundationally what I want to do with this technology and the current scope of what he's offering in the gym, and then figuring out how we could make this, how we can deliver this now, getting really honed in on what we wanted to visualize, and understanding this isn't about generating a profit right now. It's really about establishing the foundation and the infrastructure so that when we are able to execute, we can replicate this model over and over and over again. And so it was that bottleneck, which it was like that fork in the road moment of understanding, okay, we need to take a step back. How can we do this better? So I actually just posted, we had a really long meeting yesterday where we basically wrote on a whiteboard every single data point that we're collecting. I showed him the back end logic, our proprietary metrics. And I was like, this is how this aligns with intake form. This is how this aligns with the advanced assessment. When they go through the technology, this is where they are in the customer journey. And it wasn't like, now for, I would say, the average founder to be able to put this on a whiteboard and connect the dots. That may take years because it was very high level in regards to how this determines the functioning of the product and how this will allow us to run our business. However, all these answers were just flowing through me because we did all the groundwork and we've seen the bottlenecks, we've been there. And so now it's like this information is just unfolding before our eyes. And so that is just the win in and of itself, because it's just clarity. And as I said it before, clarity provides direction, which gives us the path of least resistance to execution.
I love that. And for those who are new listening to the podcast, most of my background is around management consulting. And, I have been in a couple of Fortune 500 strategy committees. And what I've seen is that they tend to overcomplicate a lot of the time what the strategy is about. And what you just mentioned hits the nail, right? Sometimes it's about identifying what's your biggest bottleneck at the moment, double down into it, and the natural outcome that will come from it, it's clarity and a sense of direction. So I really love how you put it there, because that's a strategy well done. So that's incredible. Forward looking, where do you see HyperSpeed heading in the next 12 months? What's the vision right now?
We want to automate our processes. We're generating our reports right now, they're manual. The goal is to now get this in a working, functioning database to API into every single health technology that we can that has an open source API key. That being step one. Once every single data input comes in and it's all automated, now we're going to have a web application that we'll probably build ourselves as like that true V1. That'll probably be done in the next 2-3 weeks. From there, getting it into a application on the phone, that will be essential. After that, it's then replicating this software to be able to then serve another gym or another industrial building with a health center inside of it, because also our facility is in industrial complex where we have 9 businesses underneath our roof. So that really helps us with also going into that corporate wellness model, which is something that we'd like to do. Now, once we have this system operating autonomously, we're going to be able to expand rapidly as far as the different gyms that we're serving. But really, more so than anything else, I'm really focused on the execution with this gym and being the differentiating factor, because there's no other company doing this, and really developing a presence here in the Tampa Bay area, getting involved with some of the incubators, getting involved with different public health initiatives, and serving as the means to potentially identifying some health risk factors that are plaguing very labor-intensive industries like healthcare workers and first responders. So there's an element of research. First things first, though, it's really within the next 6 months of executing on the ground level with Uncover. But really now on the back end, from a financial standpoint, is we're looking to raise money. I want to build a board. I don't want to actually be the CEO of my company. I'm looking for a CEO. I'm looking for a CTO, and I'm trying to find people that know way more than I do when it comes to healthcare policy, government contracts, and scaling the development with different AI tools and how we can get this rolling. I don't want this to be how it pays my bills or my primary source of income. I'm more so focused on serving humanity and more so, creating change in healthcare reform. And if I can bring the right people in and we just execute at the ground level, I can't even tell you where it'll be in a year. So I need to get the right people now, which I haven't taken $1 from anybody outside of a family member that allowed me to get started with a very small amount. Now it's like I have no problem giving up equity. I just want really high level people within our company to also, get more voices in the room from people coming from different spaces to help guide us in the right direction.
That's incredible what you mentioned, because I also used to say a lot, when purpose leads execution, then winning is inevitable. And that sounds a lot like we're just saying, like, you really want to have an impact, and finding the best persons that can drive that vision into a reality and really serve humanity. So that's incredibly inspiring. Anton, we'll wrap with a few rapid fire questions. Let's keep it short, sharp, and tactical. One book or resource that you would recommend to health tech founders?
Not necessarily a tech book, but the book Mastery, Finding Mastery by Robert Greene. I think it's essential to study people who are great within their domain, understanding their pathway, the trials and tribulations that they went through and how they persevere, but understanding the story behind it. I think no two people are alike, but you're able to find parallels within a lot of different journeys. I'm someone that has a lot of different inspirations from a lot of unconnected fields. That book somewhat sums it all together, in understanding that while there may not be a blueprint per se, there is a formula for which there are proper steps to take to position yourself to win and ultimately become a master within your domain. And that book served as the driving force for me to just understand that process.
Amazing. And a trend you are genuinely excited about?
AI agents. I think that is fascinating. I think that there's a lot of busy work in just very mundane human tasks that can save us a ton of time. And so I know, speaking with my CMO, we're looking to just implement that and really automate a lot of our digital marketing here down the road, where it just saves us time. But I just love all things tech related. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but yeah, AI agents.
That's a great one. And is there any linking to that? Is there any AI tool or platform that you cannot live without right now?
It's funny because you can do a couple different things, but Otter AI. And why? Because I transcribe all my texts. I talk to myself a lot. But I do it for brain dumps, and I take it, but I've already trained like my open AI model with different projects and stuff. I'm probably going to be switching over to Claude soon, but I use it for a lot of the back end logic and the coding. But I would say, while I do love OpenAI, and I'm talking about the API, I don't define it as just GPT. I holistically use that product. But Otter is really what gives me the bandwidth, because as opposed to typing, I'm talking all day and then talking and then putting those inputs in, and I already have the preliminary structure. And so, man, I don't know what it would be like to be sitting here typing all the time anymore. So that's really changed my life.
Yeah, it's incredible times in which we are living right now. And one thing that you wish you knew earlier in your journey. And take your time. That's a deep one.
No, for sure. You got to get really clear on what you're setting out to do. What is the end game? What is the goal? I think I knew I wanted to do something innovative and creative, and I knew that there was a problem with not using enough data in that health, human performance realm. And I knew I wanted to make a difference, and I knew I wasn't going to stop. But I also feel like I undermined myself in be like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I can't fund that. And then trying to find like my voice and having the confidence to find people that knew way more than me and then share, like, I have these really big goals. Can you help me? Because one thing you'll find is that if you speak with conviction, you're clear on what it is that you want to do, and you reach out to people, they will help you. So I wish I was just a little more clear. I think I could have saved myself a lot of time and stress. But I do think that happened to be the greatest lesson at the end of the day.
That's an incredible one. And finally, something that you are grateful for.
I would say my parents and the people in my life, and just being in good health, and just I think through the structure and support that I was given at a young age, and the ability to have self-belief and dare to dream big. I think that's a byproduct of the village that raises you. And so I'm just really grateful for that. I find myself reflecting quite a bit today, where it's like all these different places that I've lived and people who I've been around have played a key role in making me who I am. And I think that it's important to stay humble, because it's often when things are going well for you, it's easy to think like, oh, look at me, I'm doing all this and I work hard. But you are the sum of what you've been around, the people that are around you, and the things that fuel you. And some of those things, you can't necessarily control. And I believe I'm just blessed. And so I just try to be mindful of that as frequently as possible, because again, if I'm on 2 feet, I'm in good health, I got a chance. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And so, things may go bad, but they could always be a hell of a lot worse. So
that's totally true. And that's amazing. And you're totally right. We are very blessed for so many things that sometimes we take for granted. Anton, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you or follow your work at HyperSpeed?
Yeah, LinkedIn, I'm going to be posting a lot in the upcoming future. Antone G. Wilson. I have a Substack. I'm a pretty avid writer. I write about 2 to 3 blogs a week. Antone Wilson at Substack.com. I think that's how it goes. AntoneWilson.substack.com. I don't really self-promote that often. I'm sorry. But yeah, LinkedIn and Substack are the 2 platforms that I'm most active on. And then I have that same handle, Antone G. Wilson, on X, and Antone G. Wilson on Instagram as well. And then I'm on Facebook. And I try to, all the content that I post it across different platforms. And then the website, HyperSpeed-USA.com, currently it's probably going to be revamped because really everything we're doing is through the gym. But the gym that we're working with is called Uncover Health and Human Performance, uncover.fit. And that's based out of Tampa Bay, Florida. So that is where you find me, Substack and LinkedIn. That's where all my work and my initiatives in this health tech space are found.
That's amazing. And to all our listeners, make sure to check the description. We will leave links so that you can follow what Anton and HyperSpeed are building. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm incredibly inspired, not only for the impact that you want to bring with HyperSpeed, but also for your mentality, your focus on growth, on learning, and especially your focus on helping humanity. This has been a great conversation. Thanks a lot for your time, Anton.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. And aside from this podcast, I hope to stay in touch. So thank you, man.
Stay connected, and until the next time.
Awesome. See you.